words and things that happen within us. Identity, if we want to understand it and discover it, it is majorly taken at an individual level. It is that uh, it is that important and so big in that quite a number of ways have been proposed to identify oneself. One of the ways we've seen quite a number of computer AI generated applications that lead us into personality tests and then dream assessments. And this makes us think that actually the computer, with a few questions, can help us have an identity or identify ourselves, or even the dreams that we have. So I punch in what dreams I have, what do I aspire to be, and that is tagged to me as an identity. Now, this is so because we don't know ourselves. We don't know ourselves. And the fact that we don't know ourselves, we get confused. Why? Because we are longing for belonging. We are longing for a relationship with the world, which might not exactly be us. So then we remember, did God say anything to do with his image? That is a question we ask ourselves. If then God said that, then what is his image? We don't know. Maybe we know. And in all that confusion, we ask ourselves then, if God said that, so what does identity mean? Literally, someone would think that identity is me or you. It's all about you. It's all about yourself and who you are. And in most cases, you're going to hear quite a number of speakers, including motivational speakers, saying things like the inner person, the real you, saying things like find yourself, okay? Things that make you you. Some of the things that make me me, make you you, could be your gender. You identify as who? Nowadays, that's a common question. Who do you identify as? Your age, where you come from, what you believe in, the different roles you play in the community or profession. Some will say, my identity is doctor. My identity is accountant. My identity is counsel, which is okay because now that is the world relationship with identity. So the question is that relationship, world relationship of identity, important to us? The answer is yes. Why? Because it brings a sense of comfort in us. It brings a sense of self-esteem. It allows us be us and do that we feel we are comfortable with and we can do. If we identify ourselves and understand who we are, then our purpose is defined. We shall know our aspirations, our passions, and be able to chase them because we love them. It builds resilience. Understanding me, my identity, helps me move on in challenging times. Tough times. I'm resilient. It also builds what we call real relationships. In most cases, most of us want people who are themselves. We don't want pretenders. So if you identify or you have an identity, you'll attract a particular set of people, creating what we call the social capital. And this is the worldly thinking because that's where we are. Okay? So then the question would be, where do we find identity? Where do I find me? Where do you find you? Okay? Most of the people think that we find me within myself. You find you within yourself. And naturally, the tendency is we try to search our identity through our surrounding. That's the tendency we have, the external things. Those external things could be our career. And it is usually the first temptation that we get. We tend to identify with the different jobs that we do. I am a lecturer. I am maybe a motivational speaker. And in most cases, or some cases, that does not even define us. Okay? Why doesn't it define us? Trust me, your career is good, but you're going to realize we lose a lot of energy, and time defining career, chasing career, which in a nutshell does not even sometimes define us. Status. Sometimes we put status to identity. We look at what is our relationship status. Am I married? Am I not married? Am I dating? Am I not dating? We are looking at the financial capabilities, the successes, the grades we get, the reputation, our physical appearance. Sometimes we think, oh, I look good, so I am brown. That is my identity. All this that I'm saying and many more usually make us feel like, it is what life is all about. But the whole thing is, this is not permanent. And if you put your identity on age, job, and any other thing, then you're in for a very, very big disappointment. Why? Because age changes anytime. The way I look now, if I identify myself with the way I look now, a few years down the road, I won't be me. Things I used to do then and things I do now, I may not be able to do then because I am putting my identity on me now. So putting the identity on the job, you can lose the job anytime. You can lose the job anytime. Does it still identify you, or do you still identify as that job? No. Death. There is something very important. Even gossip. Gossip alone can change everything about you, even when it is untrue sometimes. But there is no one. So, what is going to stand in for you is understanding what you are and the purpose for which you were created. Now, there is this madness, or there comes this madness. The madness I'm talking about is the scientific mind and the scientific understanding of identity. What goes on in the realms of science, you're going to hear things to do with evolution, you're going to hear things to do with population diversity, you're going to hear things to do with phylogenetics, which we refer to as evolution relatedness. Now, when we go with evolution, it really tells you that you came from nowhere, became something, and then turned into a person like the one you're seeing here. And that is what I'm presenting here. You were nothing, grew in water, became fish. Fish started moving to the planet because maybe what to eat was done in the lakes and the waters. Come to land. At one point, you were a dinosaur. You changed into a monkey. A gorilla. You're a chimpanzee. You an ape. Until when you became a modern human being. This one with a briefcase. Now, you realize that science identifies us with other creatures. Allow me to take you to phylogenetics, where you're seeing phylogenetics. And in this phylogenetics, we have this node here, and then you're seeing mammals, and they're showing you that actually your closest species or animal you identify with in this tree is a mouse, which is a rat. So you and a mouse, there is a small difference because you're coming from the same most recent common ancestor. However, you, the human being on top, and the snake down here, you're the same. So literally, science identifies us with all other creatures. When you come to diversity, it will tell you what is bringing a difference between us, you, and me is at the genetic level, and quite a number of things are happening in there. This might be true to a given point. However, this is not the identity that we are looking for. I wouldn't want to identify with fish. Neither would I want to identify with a snake. But this is what the other aspect, the worldly aspect, the satanic aspect has brought confusion as far as identity is concerned. I'm sorry, I'm so fast because I have very limited time. So then, that takes us to a question. What is identity? If it is not what the scientific world is telling us, there's something more than identity. And it's what we refer to as true identity. And true identity is what God sees in us and how God sees us, how he appreciates us. And this stemmed right from the beginning, where God made or had the will for man's race. And the will for man's race, still in Genesis 1:26, the will for man's race was to make man in God's image after God's likeness. Now, the word likeness is resemblance. And the word resemblance, if it is translated from the Hebrew word, it means being carved out. You know, most of us, if we are told, you look like your mother, you look like your father, you feel happy. Now, our identity is God. Is God. And God went ahead and affirmed this when he said that we are making him in our image, and he went ahead and made me, you, in his image, identifying you with him. So God passed on all this to man. You know how? When Adam gave birth to a son, Seth looked like him after his own likeness. So Seth identified with Adam, had something in common. And this was from God and fulfilling. Still, we need to know if we are identified with God, then what's that God's image? And how does God see us? God looks at us in a lovely manner. He loves us because he created us for a purpose. We are not a carbon copy of anyone. Our character is not a character of anyone else. It is unique for me, for you, because you're unique in God's eyes, and he loves you that way. And he did stop at loving me and you, but rather also chose me to be part of his family. Now, if you do not identify with someone, if you do not have a character in common with someone, there is no way they will get back to you. And he didn't only stop putting you back, he restored you even when he lost you. Meaning, our true identity is God. Is God. He forgave us, and he redeemed us, and even adopted us. That is our true identity. God refers to us as fellow citizens. We are no longer foreigners because we identify with him. He enables us to resist sin because we call ourselves God's children, and Christ died for us. Now, our personal identity usually was and is preserved in the resurrection of Jesus Christ. That is for us who identify as Christians. My personal identity is because Christ resurrected. And it is God given. No one, nothing else, job, education, be it family, they don't define our God-given identity. If God created you as a male, then your identity is male. If God created you as a female, your identity is a female. No one can change that, even when you try to change that, the perception. So we are saying it is not tied to our personalities. So the confusion is we get our personalities and call them identity, which is wrong. We may have different temperaments and personalities, but that ain't our identity. Our identity stemmed from the Garden of Eden, stemmed from the point of creation. So we are saying our identity as Christians is not just in what we think about ourselves, but what God thinks and says about us. That should be your identity as a Christian. Thank you.